All right, we got 10:05 here, and we'll just kind of jump in. Like I said, if you're just getting in here, if you press mute, then it won't capture some of your noise. But obviously, if you're getting ready to say something or talk, make sure you to unmute it so we can hear you, because I'm hoping that the most of our time here will be spent kind of catching up and talking and hanging out. So definitely want to hear from each one of you. Does anybody have any issues or questions about the Zoom call right now? Is everybody doing well? Doing good? All right. Oh, there it is, Josh, with your thumbs up. See, there's a little feature. See what they did there? And yep, you guys are fine at it. Good work. Good work. So what I want to do right now is just to welcome you. Obviously, it's a strange situation that we're in, not being able to meet up. And I was actually called my grandma this week just to check on her and see how she was doing, and was curious, has anything like this ever happened before? And she said, I don't remember anything like this ever happening before. And so we're definitely in one of these unique scenarios that we're all just trying to figure out as we go. So I'm grateful for so many of you guys jumping in here and allowing us to hang out this morning, and excited just to connect, because quite frankly, I think this is going to be going this way for a while. I think we might have another month or two of this. I don't know, hopefully not too long. And so we have to figure out, what does it mean to be a community, and what does it mean to be a church when we're not supposed to be near each other? So grateful for this opportunity for us to hook up and connect here. I want to, I talked about this a little bit in the email, but I want to take an opportunity just to see, obviously this has changed everybody's life pretty dramatically. And so I want to see kind of what you guys have been up to, or what kind of things have changed in your life for the good or for the bad, things we can be praying about, even just some cool things maybe that have happened. Talk about, obviously a lot of stuff is being stripped away right now. And so maybe what things have been taken away, what good things have been added. So I just want to kind of leave it up here for you guys to share, to catch everybody up, and yeah, just see how you guys are all doing.
So, hi.
Hi.
I actually, so for me, I work at Charles River Labs in HR, and we're pretty much business as usual, because we've actually worked on a couple of the drugs that are being tested as either, I don't know about cures, but treatments for, and on the vaccines. So we're considered an essential function, but our huddle was just talking about this, and on Friday, there were only 3 of us in our little hallway, and one of the guys that I work with, younger guy, we were talking about everybody's fears and things, and I just said to him, I was like, well, I'm a Christian, so I kind of have a different, maybe perspective on, the ultimate terrible end of all of this. And he just piped up and said, well, I'm a believer, and I agree with you. Haven't been going to church lately, but I totally agree with you. So that was a conversation that probably would not have happened if all of this weren't going on. And so I'm going to invite him either to come to the church plant, or just start that conversation, or continue that conversation at some opportunity here. And he's got a young family too. They've got a 2-year-old, and they're expecting a second baby. So he seemed like he was open to it.
That's really awesome. That's really cool. Thanks, Dagmar.
Yeah, for us, obviously our restaurant got affected. We aren't able to be open to the public anymore, and that's kind of weird. But the crazy thing is, I think I've seen almost every single one of you in a week that we can't be open, and it's been really humbling to us right here. We've been having to rely on the community around us more than we ever have. And the neat piece is that everybody's really showed up for us. In some weird dark times, the real light in this for us is just seeing all the people out there that are coming to show us some love, and we just really appreciate it from everybody. And thanks for everybody that's come out to see us in a weird week.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's been fun to go in there and see you guys, and I've been thinking about you, praying about you a lot, especially knowing that it's changed your schedule a lot, but it's all of a sudden put a whole new level of stress probably on the new business. And so definitely love you guys. Glad that you're getting the support you need.
All right, so for us, it's been kind of interesting just because I know for me, I had some weird feelings because our life really hasn't changed that much since we work from home and we're online for most of our stuff. But it was weird because it feels like we came here for, not only for the community, but because God was calling us, but so community was part of that. So it's weird to not have that now and to be kind of back to that, like not connecting as much other than, through online stuff. And so that's been kind of frustrating for both of us, I think, just not being able to have that. But it's also been good because we've needed the time, kind of hit the ground running when we got here. So it kind of has given us time to just get in our routine and just decompress and, spend some time with God that we weren't able to do when we were like crazy unpacking and all that. So it's been kind of a mix of emotions.
Yeah. So far, the first week, for me has been awesome just to be able to kind of take a step back now that we came here and kind of get things established and rock and roll. And this next week's going to start getting annoying. And after that, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going out to meet somebody one way or the other. But no, it's been interesting. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So you mean, Sarah, you got forced into rest a little?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And I don't know if I was ready for it, but I needed it. So it was good.
Kim, we saw you type something. Don't you want to speak?
Yeah, I love to. There is a little chat window. Anyone can put their comments on the right if you want to open that up. I just put mine there to save a little time for everyone. But many of you may have extra. So for me, I've still been quite busy. But I am looking forward to hopefully getting to some of the projects I haven't been able to in the past. My family's well, and hoping to spend more time with my neighbors, Josh and Sarah. So everyone's good here, trying to keep grandma at home so she doesn't go out and expose herself unneededly.
For me, it's just been kind of cool to see sort of the amped up level of compassion that people seem to have, at least people in my circle. And I've had the opportunity to check in on a lot of folks that I haven't maybe talked to a lot recently. And it's just kind of heartening to see the level of compassion that people seem to have for each other. And, this is a situation. It doesn't matter how rich or how poor or how cool you are. We're all affected by it. And, so it's certainly humbling just to kind of be going through this.
So sorry, we were trying to find the right lighting. It's really hard for some reason to not get it so dark. But it's been so crazy to have all the girls home at one time and 2 puppies. And Ben's also working from home and we're probably driving him all crazy. So it's just trying to figure out how to live under one roof all the time, every single day, and not have us, being too loud for meetings for him. But it's just been interesting because I was developing some relationships with some women in the neighborhood, some other moms, but it's been hard to not be able to play and be one-on-one with them and have to figure out how to still get a hold of each other and not have that play date that we had already, scheduled out. So that's been interesting. Yeah.
We are, sorry. We are, I don't want to say struggling. We're adjusting. Obviously, we're both educators, so we got shut down pretty early on in this. And Sarah's totally done. I still have some work stresses that are ramped up based on this. So I have quite a few kids who are living well below the poverty line. And so this is freaky for them, for me to try to help them. So we're, I guess that's my prayer. If we're throwing out prayer requests, is just a lot of students are affected by more than just the educational piece, but just food in general. So yeah, so, but we're making do. We're really trying to find the blessing in the fact that we do all get to be home together. Even though we don't get to play outside or play with our friends, I'm trying not to go stir crazy. Sarah's much better with it. She's got projects, but I'm like, oh, our parents need groceries. Well, I'll go out and get them right now because I'm such a good person and I need an errand to do. So, yeah, so, but it's a blessing.
Yeah, if you wondered whether you were an introvert or extrovert, right on the line, this is how we find out, isn't it?
All right.
So sorry.
Well, you go ahead, Abigail.
Not too much has changed with our schedule. For the most part, we had some, obviously we homeschool, but we have church and activities, co-ops that we do, stuff like that. So the girls are starting to notice a little bit that we're not keeping up with the normal, and Dylan's still working. So that's been a little extra stressful for him because there's not really protocol to handle situations like this. So I would definitely ask for your prayers for him, as him and the rest of the community and all the first responders try to figure out how to continue keeping everyone safe while trying to keep themselves and their families safe and stuff like that. So that would definitely be our prayer request right now, would be just for him and the people that he works with to be able to figure out how to handle the situation as best that they can, because again, no one's really knows how to handle it. So it's been interesting.
Abby, has anybody tried doing the I have Corona and so we pulled them over yet? I saw that going around.
I don't know. They've had to show up to a couple calls in hazmat suits and ventilators and stuff so it's just, I don't know. I can't imagine trying to keep people calm and help them feel safe when you're wearing hazmat gear, and half the department doesn't know how to use it. Thankfully, Dylan has prior experience with that kind of stuff from the military, so he's been able to help out a lot, but it's just, there's so many unknowns, and there's so many people who don't understand how to even begin to try to handle the situation. So it's been pretty interesting.
So our household, I mean, it's been a crazy week of adjustment. Andy and I are both working from home full time, and that's fine with like the older kids. And I think just having Silas around, like having a 1-year-old and trying to like do full-time work has been crazy. So we, I think week 2 will definitely go better than week 1 now that like we kind of understand, okay, what are the things we need to get done as a family? And I think the things that like weigh on our hearts are the people who are, impacted around us financially in this, our daycare workers, other people who rely on, service industry, and how can we serve them? We're feeling blessed that we both have full-time employment still and that that's not affected. So I saw Kim just wrote a note to Rick around like what families, do you have specific things that we can step in? And I think that that would be awesome if we can kind of share that among our church plant team. And, some of us, I mean, like we want to be able to do stuff and help, but like, it's hard to know exactly where is the need. So if there are needs, that you guys can share with us as a larger group, let's put that out there as a team. And I think like just reaching out to people, Allie, you mentioned, relationships that you've built. And I feel that pain too. And like, how can we reach out, more than just on Facebook? I feel like Facebook is just such a smattering of like information going out there and people like, woe is me, this homeschooling life is, crazy. Like this isn't homeschooling. This isn't work at home. This isn't homeschooling. Like this is something completely different. And know something, I just been trying to like message people one-on-one, just a handful of people, check on my neighbors and like send them an actual text message instead of just, blasting things on Facebook. And, I think people really appreciate that one-on-one and everyone's kind of feeling differently about it. But I think keeping things in perspective is what we've been trying to do is like, we're not in a war-torn country. We're not refugees, having to flee our houses without any possessions. Like, this is okay. We can do this. And so just keeping perspective has been kind of our motto for this week. But it certainly hasn't been easy. There's been a lot of challenges. So looking forward to week 2 being better than week 1.
Yeah, I saw Cherie at the presidential a couple days ago, and we were talking about that, how there's a different level or a different understanding of what being productive is right now if you're working at home or not working at home, probably. So it's a crazy new place that we're in, trying to understand what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing, especially when so much of our identity, good or bad, is tied into our work. If that's changed or if we're not able to do that right now, et cetera.
Hey, this is Chad and Rachel. So I agree with a lot of what everyone's been saying, and I know there's some people that have serious needs, as Rick was pointing out too, but there's also like, if you think about the time that this is happening, it's almost like there's never been a better time in history to actually be socially distanced and stay connected. The fact that we can still have church remotely like this, the fact that I was still able to get together with the huddle and we were able to have a FaceTime call and do that. So I would encourage us, caring doesn't have to be this big extravagant show. Little things like, so Rachel's grandmother is still alive and she is isolated because at 98 years old, she can't take any risk at being out in the public, but that's lonely. So we're setting up like regular FaceTime calls for her to see her grandkids and stuff like that. And maybe that's a simple thing, or maybe in the hustle and bustle of this week that didn't happen for you, but keeping the kids in contact socially with their friends, we found has been important. And then also, any of those family members that can't get out has been important, just to be able to show God's love to them in small ways like that.
I think for me, one of the things that's really kind of been eye-opening and has made me pause a little bit, everybody's got a different perspective on what's going on. Some people may think that we're all overreacting, and other people feel like the sky's falling. And it's just really been important for me to stop and listen to people and how this affects them personally, including our daughters. But we're all reacting to this thing based upon stuff that's happened in our lives or how we feel about ourselves or what have you. A lot of things go into shaping our reaction to this. And so just trying to give somebody else a chance to talk about how they're feeling and what's driving their emotions, it definitely gives you a different perspective on things.
I feel like our family has really used this to an advantage because we've been doing a lot of things that can help us with our life our life skills, and we've been doing extra stuff, and I've really liked it because I've gotten a lot more time to spend with my dad, and we've had a lot of time together, and I've been spending a lot of more time with my family. And I mean, I'm just grateful that I get to spend this time with like my dad, and we've been getting a lot more bonding time, and then I've learned a lot more skills, and I'm very glad about that.
So it's been kind of a crazy week for me over here, and this is Lance speaking. I'm working like crazy. For those of you that haven't met, I'm store manager at Gordon Foods. It's been just unreal for me. I'd have to add it up, but excuse me, if I'm not into triple digits for hours worked this week, I'm right on the edge of it. And I've got the unique thing where anybody can come into Gordon Food Service, but I've got 72% of the business in my store is other businesses, and they're all that sort of same type of deal Presidential's got going on, where it's just a one location mom and pop type of operation where there's not a big chain where they can weather a storm like this. And the few of those I do deal with have closed down, and it's fine, but there's a lot more trying to stay open. And so you kind of get that added pressure of not only do I got to do my job well to keep these people going, but if I don't do that and they shut down, it costs other jobs, and the ripple effect that would have is literally tens of thousands of people that would impact. The kind of cool thing that I said the biggest highlight of the week is talking to my people that have stayed open. They're all doing extremely well. And between just gift card sales or extremely generous tips, I mean, I talked to one of my customers, would have been Friday, and he said someone's been in every day this week and has tipped him $100. Same guy, tipped him $100 every single day. And it's just, see, you hear things like that about the community pulling together, and that's been really cool.
That's really cool, Lance. I love to hear those stories. And I can't remember who I was talking to this week, but it might have been my mom or something, but somebody had made that observation of our country's been so torn lately, and how this is a good opportunity to kind of bring kind of shore up some of that distance, you know, that we've had as a culture, as a people. But especially, I think we as Christians, to hear that story like that, Lance, it could be a cool chance for us to be mindful of how we could do those kinds of things and care for people in extraordinary ways.
Hey, Mitch, to follow up on your introvert and extrovert comment, Mallory is thriving right now as an introvert. And so are our dogs too. They love this. So just projects going all over the place, crafting. Right now our fireplace is all taped up and painted. And unfortunately, I'm seeing my list of chores to do going up too at the same time. But we're enjoying it as much as we can. I have to work. I was told that I'm going to have to work no matter what. So we're just kind of planning on it. I'm trying to figure out how to stay safe and not bring it back to our home. One cool thing we did this morning. Our family, we're out in the lot, and my parents are in Portage, and then we have family in North Carolina and in Miami. And for the first time, we did a video this morning just like this. It was just really cool that we could get together. It usually happens about once a year in person, and we were able to do it. And I think going forward, we're going to keep doing that because it's really cool.
Yeah, and I've had the opportunity to connect with people and just friends that I love and I care about so much, but I never get to see or talk to because of the stress of my job and just life. And it's been really nice to be able to slow down and reconnect with those people and just let them know how much they mean to me and not take them for granted.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I've been seeing a lot of that, kind of that sentiment of, yeah, we don't see each other very often. Now we've been talking to each other, and it's not bad excuses, but those excuses we make to not get together are valid because it's so hard to coordinate lots of people getting together. And now it kind of takes away some of those excuses and really gives us a great opportunity to do some of that reconnecting you're talking about, which is cool. Eric, what about you? The tax is still going?
Yeah, so basically my life well, I wouldn't say it feels the same. I'm still like going crazy with taxes and trying to convince my 70-year-old boss who thinks that she's 40 that she needs to be more responsible. But mostly just trying to figure out how to bring my work home so I don't have to go to the office. Is kind of where I'm at right now. And I think I'm at a place where I've got a lot of work here and I'm going to be able to stay away from the office for a little while, but we've canceled face-to-face meetings and stuff. But, you know, when my boss comes into the office and is like, oh yeah, I went to the farmer's market this morning, and I'm like, oh, I wish you wouldn't do things like that. But, you know, you can only do so much.
Stoffers, how are you hanging in there?
We're good. Jared's, I don't know if I'm going to talk about your situation, but you know, I'm home because I'm a teacher. I think the hardest thing, like I've really enjoyed having the kids home, and I had like a nice schedule, and I mean, I played school my whole life growing up. So like now I get to play school with my own kids. So that's nice. But I think the struggle for me is I started like going down that rabbit hole the other day, like, what if we don't go back to school? And what if this? And what if that? And what if this? And Jared just said to me, like, maybe you should just stop looking at all those things. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Like, I just need to take it one day at a time, and living in this, you know, not knowing what's going to happen and wanting to be able to plan all of those things out. And how am I supporting my teachers has been interesting, but I think a good reminder that I just need to slow down and just enjoy this time together as a family. And enjoy that. And the kids have been outside a lot, which has been good. But so that's me. Do you want to?
Yeah, for me, I'm self-employed. A lot of people probably don't know what I do, but I'm a fitness trainer for people with physical disabilities. And being self-employed right now is a little bit of a challenge. Currently, I'm still going to see a few people here and there, but the financial difference I mean, if I don't work, then I'm not getting paid. So for the next few weeks with this uncertainty, it's a little scary. So I'm just trying to be optimistic, but I know that God, I mean, we've had times in our lives where we've had uncertainty before, and things have always worked out really good for us. So I think that God will just use this situation for a lot of people, not just us. And I'm trying not to be selfish too when I think about our own situation, because there's other people there such more dire need than us. So I know that God will use this situation for us and in some positive way, and that's something that we will learn or something that they will use us for. So I'm just trying to be optimistic in this time, and I'm getting plenty of projects done around the house, which I like projects, so I'm fine with that.
Amelia, Isaiah, have you guys been having fun too? What have you guys been doing?
How are you feeling, babe?
Scared with school. It's like I don't know how long am I going to go to school for with the sickness going around. I want to go back to school.
How about you, Isaiah? How are you feeling? Oh, he's not going to talk to you guys. Not surprised. Amelia will tell you her whole life story. Can you just wave? Hello. Are you doing good? Isaiah's like thriving because he's home with his mom and dad, which is where he likes to be. So he's happy to not have to go to school every day. But Amelia loves her teacher, and that unknown is hard, isn't it, honey? Yeah.
For me, things haven't really changed. I have to go to work regardless, just work in the pharmacy. But my biggest concern is right now all the healthcare workers, just that nobody gets sick so we can continue to take care of people.
Have you been able to stay pretty healthy, Colin? Or I know you don't really get a choice.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I've been taking a bunch of, like Zicam and all the, just to support my immune system to try to not allow it. Sometimes I kind of wish we'd switch to drive-through only in the pharmacy just to continue to protect us. Because if our pharmacists start getting sick, they're going to have bigger problems. You can't just fill those roles very fast. And we can't close down because, diabetes and heart conditions will get people faster than that. So it's just, we need to stay healthy too. I just see a lot of, it's spreading really fast right now, so.
Rachel, how are you guys hanging in there?
We're fine. I do a lot of after schooling, so it doesn't feel so different than our spring break or summer break. The only addition is my sisters were concerned for their kids, so they have asked me to teach their children as well. So that's the big difference.
John and Michelle, I think that's you.
Oh, we just hit on mute. We're doing fine. I am a teacher, but I teach at a private school. So we're still able to, we've been emailing our kids and just we've sent packets home for them. But I teach kindergarten, so it's kind of hard to figure out the best way to, teach 5-year-olds from home. I've been getting messages from them from home, from their parents and stuff. So they're doing well. John's also working from home. He lugged home 2 ginormous monitors, huge printer. So he's set up camp in the living room. But other than that, we don't have kids. So we're just kind of hanging out with the dogs and nothing exciting.
Basically, the only thing that's been hard for me is no sports. It's horrible.
Yeah. Poor John.
It's like all I think about.
Well, John, we're going to resolve this. We talked about this, right? We're going to go practice social distance and disc golf together.
I like it.
Ooh. Good plan. Good plan.
I heard if you have ESPN The Ocho, there's a really intriguing rock skipping competition airing right now. So if you're desperate, John, there you go.
Well, thanks guys for sharing. And obviously we're gonna keep hanging out and talking here. But I thought it'd be good if 1 or 2 people would be willing to pray right now, just for obviously people who are sick and just the uncertainty and into this situation. And so I don't know if 1, 2, 1, you guys want to volunteer? Don't all jump out at once. All right, Allie and Aiden. All right, Aiden, you want to start and Allie can close it?
All right, dear God, thank you, you for this wonderful day and that we can still communicate through technology. Some people say it's our doom, but I don't think so. And that the people that are infected by the coronavirus, help them feel better and heal right away so we can all go back to school and get better educations.
God, I just thank you for how present you are, even in the midst of all of the chaos and all of the confusion and stress. I pray for just the many people who are sick right now with this virus. I just pray for healing and protection over them and their bodies. And I pray for anyone else who is susceptible to the virus, that you would just protect them and be with them. And God, I just thank you for how you're working, for families being together and families being able to draw close and press into you. I just pray that you continue to help us press into you and seek you, even when it's confusing and why all of this is going on. God, we just know that we can trust you and we can count on you because you are faithful. Jesus, I thank you for each one of these people and their families and their little people. And God, that I just pray you would surround us as a church plant team, help us to come together, and thank you for the ways that we can come together today. It's in your name, Jesus. Amen.
So when are we going to start the childcare for this church?
Rick, I thought you were doing that.
It's a very independent process here.
Just wondering who I'm going to ship these guys off to real quick.
I volunteer Kaylee as tribute.
All right, guys. Well, you know the drill here. Obviously, you can get up, grab your coffee, do whatever you want. But we want to kind of proceed as usual a little bit. And one of the ways we've been doing that is just sharing our stories, kind of our faith stories. And Ben's been teed up now for a couple weeks. And Ben volunteered to share his story. So, yeah, just give him your attention. And yeah, thanks, Ben, for sharing.
Well, good morning. It's great to be here together. The only way I know how to share my story is just to tell it. You know, I grew up in a small town where everybody knew everybody. My family owned its own business, and you know, it was a tight-knit community. I grew up in a normal little neighborhood, little cul-de-sac, and you know, from the outside world, my life was as normal as anybody's. But things weren't that way inside the four walls I lived in. My dad was just a bad guy. And he was a raging alcoholic, and was physically, emotionally, and sexually abusive. And my sister, who's 15 months older than I am, the two of us, we have two younger brothers, but my sister and I took the brunt of things. And, you know, here I am at almost 62 years old, and I'd love to tell you that God's great and everything's cool. But, I mean, God's great, but everything's not cool. I still struggle with the aftermath, all that stuff. And it's, you know, my mom stayed with my dad. She thought she was doing us kids a favor, you know? And I guess looking back, that was probably a regret that she had, because it wasn't doing anybody any favors. But in reality, she just didn't have the courage to leave. But my parents did end up getting divorced when I was 13. And if you guys remember being 13, that's a pretty crappy age to deal with a lot of stuff. And for me, it's like, while I went from all of the chaos and the ugliness that I'd grown up in, suddenly I was 13. My mom, who had been a housekeeper for 20 years, had to go and try to find a job. And basically, I went from at least a financial security that I had as a kid to now being a damaged kid on welfare. And that's kind of how I grew up as a teenager. And you know, I think my mom thought she was giving us all a bunch of room to kind of regroup and kind of heal. My teen years were were years when I didn't have any structure. And so, you know, I kind of filled those in destructive ways, and you know, started drinking and getting high and stuff at an early age, and that kind of just was my path. In spite of all of the stuff that my dad did and how he, you know, the self-esteem issues that came out of it, I really just wanted my dad to love me in spite of it all. And I couldn't understand how everybody else's dad loved him. And mine did the stuff that he did. So I tried to find ways to mask that, and it was alcohol, drugs, and sex. And but you know, I'd been raised in the church. My mom was a Sunday school teacher. I knew Jesus. I'd accepted him as my savior as a young kid, but I sure didn't feel like he was saving me a whole lot. And I have to say, you know, I mean, my entire life has been shaped by that feeling that, well, if God really did love me, why'd I go through all this stuff? And why do I still feel the way that I do? And at 62 years old, that still creeps into my mind and shapes a lot of the things that I say and do and the way that I act. Yet, I look back on my life and I have seen how God has carried me through all of these things, how he's brought a great wife into my life, how he has he's given me a better life than I ever thought I deserved. We've got two wonderful daughters, and I praise God that while I didn't have a role model for being a good dad, I ended up being one anyway. And so, I mean, that's a great thing. But, you know, PTSD is a real deal, man. And it's everybody's affected by it differently. I shared it a little bit a couple of weeks ago at church with a small group that we were talking. You know, I'm great at loving everybody else, but I am not great at loving me. And that's going to always be my struggle. But God has given me the gifts to be able to be empathetic and compassionate towards others, in spite of my lack of ability to do that for myself. And that's a weird, quirky kind of gift that I guess I'm grateful for. My faith journey is one that is a journey. It's me knowing that in spite of how I feel about myself and things that have happened, God continues to call me. And he continues to find ways to use me. But I shared with Mitch my biggest struggle in my faith walk is really simply trying to understand that I've got this amazing God, this amazing Father who loves me and who doesn't see me as this broken thing and just sees me perfect, because I have such a hard time relating to a father that can be that way. And so, for me, it's constantly just trying to figure out really who God is. Because at the end of the day, I know God loves me. I just don't think he loves me as much as he does everybody else. So I just continue to try to follow him and try to let him love me. And the rest of it just is what it is. That's who I am.
Thanks, Ben. That was incredibly honest and vulnerable, and we love you. And we thank you for leading us with that kind of vulnerability and openness there. And even just to leave us with the openness and vulnerability to say, I don't know what to do with that, but to trust. And it's one thing to know theologically something is true, and it's another thing to actually believe it in your heart, right? And so appreciate that vulnerability, and quite frankly, I want to encourage you and let you know that we love you deeply. I'm so grateful personally that you're on this team, and I think, as messed up as it is, the way that we get to where we are sometimes, I have no doubt in my mind that God will continue to do enormous things through you, and in spite of the bad things that are happening through that story of yours. And yeah, we're grateful to have you as a friend and as a leader on this team. Thank you. Well, I feel like this is a moment that I'd like to just pray and to speak into this a little bit. So God, we thank you for Ben and for Dagmar and their family. And we just thank you for them, their willing hearts to serve you and love you, even when things don't always seem right or clear from the perspective of our past or things like that, and don't always make sense. God, we thank you for their faithfulness, for Ben's love for people, even though he had every reason not to trust people. God, we thank you that he does, and that he's here with us. And God, I just pray that you would continue to speak clarity into his life, into his story, and show him not just that he's loved, but give him an overwhelming, tangible feeling of the way you love him, that I think he deep down wants to receive. And God, so I pray that he can receive that. We know it's true. We know that you love us that way. God, let him experience that kind of love. Again, God, thank you for Ben. We pray for him and for his entire family. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, thanks again, Ben. And next week, we have Amy, I think, is going to share with us too, provided everything, nothing major changes or whatever. Everything's day to day these days, I'm sure, but that's the plan. But yeah, I'm just so grateful for all of you guys being willing to share your stories and to be honest and to be vulnerable and to trust each other, because these are hard things to trust each other with. And yeah, I just want to encourage you guys, if you haven't shared your story, to challenge you to be ready to, and to even just reach out to me and say, hey, I want to, because I'm always going to say yes to that. And you know, if you're wondering, hey, Mitch, what do I say? That sort of thing, we can talk about that. But I'd love for you just to open yourself up a little bit to this team and let us learn from your experiences, your journey, and your faith. So yeah, thanks for doing that, for those who have and for those who will. Kind of where I want to go from here is I wasn't actually going to go here, but it's funny because moving on in this book, you know, I was thinking about hitting timeout this week and doing something different. And then Sarah shared that quote from the chapter that I was already kind of thinking about doing anyways. And the more and more I just talk to people from even you guys have voiced it and mentioned it today, kind of on very opposite sides of the spectrum. Some of you guys are more busy than you were before. Some of you have more time than you know what to do with. Some of you are, a lot of us probably are kind of struck with a little bit of anxiety about the uncertainty of things. And so I just felt like, hey, I think we actually need to do this. We need to jump into this. And so we're going to look at, I think it's chapter 9. Chapter 9, it's the semicircle. And we'll go through that a little bit. And I want to, we'll try, I'm going to try to experiment with my iPad here and see if this works the way I think it's going to. But the reason I wasn't sure about this is because I'm like, well, man, this is all about the rhythm of rest and work. And I was so ready to do this because every story that I'd been hearing from most of you, actually all of you, was just the craziness of life and the busyness of life. And this one really gets at that principle of rest. And so when this happened, I'm like, well, I guess we don't really need to talk about it because everybody's resting. But then that reality of people like Lance, who actually are working more. Monica's not with us this morning, but she's in labs working more. You know, Dagmar and Eric and several others you've mentioned, you're really right in the thick of it, Colin. And so I just thought, man, I think we do need to talk about this because for those of us who are in the season of rest, it's an opportunity to kind of seize the day. For those who didn't get that luxury, it's an opportunity to be reminded about what God hopes and desires for our lives. And so kind of where this starts is creation, and based on that creation story when God is doing the 6 days of creation. And when he is, here, just a second. Sorry, technical difficulties here. But anyways, going at the creation story and looking at how God created, we see these 6 days of creation. And on the 6th day, man was created. And what's significant about that is that when God created, he created and then gave man a job, right? Be fruitful and multiply, have dominion over the earth. And so we see not only man and women being created, but then God gives them a job, gives them work. Sometimes people think work is bad. I don't think work is bad, but biblically work isn't bad. But after the fall, after the curse, we see that work, the word labor comes into it, right? Labor as it pertains to work, labor as it pertains to labor pains. Things that were supposed to be good became painful. And work was one of those things. So it wasn't a bad thing, but it became painful. And so many of us find this routine where we work because it's part of the creation mandate, but it becomes hard. And part of that is the thing that we impose upon ourselves. I've been saying it all along that I think this is actually an opportunity that God's ripping off that heavy yoke that we keep trying to put on ourselves and say, no, I told you, I'll give you the easy yoke. Here it is. And what I think is really interesting about this story, and they highlight in this book, is that often when we think of the creation, the Sabbath, we think, you know, work hard for 6 days and then we rest, because that's what we see God do. But when you actually think about it from the perspective of humanity, because Jesus said himself, Sabbath is for man, not man for the Sabbath. This idea that Sabbath, this principle, is created for humanity, not for God. God didn't need to rest. God chose to rest. But you see, on the sixth day, man and woman were created, gives them a job. And then if you're anything like me, if all of a sudden, well, I can't imagine what that would have been like to be created, for one, but he was given this job and basically said, hurry up and wait, and had to wait a full day. The seventh day was a resting day. And what's really interesting about that is we think about this a lot differently. A lot of times we want to work, kind of work to the weekend, right? You work hard, really hard, and then you hit day 7, and then you just go hit that vegetative state when we're in one of those crazy cycles that maybe some of you are still in right now. And when we see the creation pattern, actually is that man and woman was created and they didn't actually do anything yet, but they rested for a whole day and then they went out. So the idea is that we should ultimately work from rest, not work to rest. And I think that's a profound principle that many of us miss. And one of my mentors in the past challenged me, because I'd talk about how I would consistently get in these routines, these seasons where I'd be hitting burnout. You know, you get like working with college students, you'd hit like May, you kind of went real strong for 9 months, and I would just get kind of grumpy and irritable and that sort of thing. And one of my mentors challenged me and said, what if you didn't get to that point? What if actually before that, like in March, you took a week or so off and just really got healthy and kind of geared up to go into that season so you didn't get burned out? And it kind of reframed everything that I've ever thought of about just working to the weekend, working to rest, and this idea of, okay, I need to work from rest. I need to get healthy and work in a healthy way. And so the way that they talk about this in this book is, again, because all these are shapes, and I'm going to try to put this content on here and see if I can do this. Let me see here. I don't know if this is going to work. Yeah, I am, but it's not, it just says photos. I don't want photos. This isn't working. Sorry. Are you on an iPad, Kens? Sorry, guys. Thanks for bearing with me. Huh? Okay. Screen, box, Google Drive.
Are you trying to do a screen share?
Okay, I got it here.
Oh, there we go.
Whiteboard. All right, you guys see this now? Can you guys see this whiteboard?
Yep, we got it.
Okay. So they call this the semicircle. Is this going here? Oh, look at that. We're getting technological here. Because the idea is, if this is rest and we're working from rest, and this is work, that it should exist like a pendulum, where we have this pendulum swing here and we start from rest, and there should be this free-flowing movement back and forth. This is the rhythm of the Sabbath. And so if we're starting from rest, then we go into work. Now, what's really where you see this happen a lot is obviously in Jesus' life. If you look at the first like half a dozen chapters of the book of Mark alone, you actually have Jesus, indications of him going off to pray, particularly in the morning, like 10 of them in the first 6 chapters. We see this pattern over and over, that Jesus would regularly start his morning before the crowds really had a chance to jeopardize his time or his energy, and he'd go out and rest and then go into work. And that work obviously wasn't bad. We know the work Jesus was doing changed the world, so this was a good thing. But we see this regular flow of work to rest back and forth in Jesus's life over and over and over again. And one passage that I really like is John 15. It's a passage that I go to regularly in my life. And so if you have a Bible there, you can open that up. I don't dare try to switch my screen over right now because I'm feeling pretty good about getting this whiteboard. So I'm just going to read it to you. It says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, so that he will be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word I've spoken to you. Remain in me as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. And then Jesus goes on to say, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. And so what this does is actually bring more insight to our rest work rhythm here. And Jesus is saying, outside of abiding in me, resting in me, remaining in me, you can't do anything. And often the way we think about work is a lot of grit and will and determination. And those aren't bad qualities, certainly, but they are very egocentric qualities or kind of ambitions. And if we take another layer on this circle, what we have is this idea of remaining. So you see this kind of rest in there, and then fruit on this opposite spectrum. But what's interesting is when we think about it this way, out of our remaining, if we out of that, so the same paradigm, and we swing over here, eventually we hit this season of fruit. And Jesus says that apart from me, you cannot have it. And so he is the vine, we are the branches. And I think what's interesting about this, and a good reminder, is that when we try to accomplish something, it's usually a lot of, like I said, grit and determination. And when you think about the nature of a grapevine or a grape, this vine or this branch isn't just literally like gritting its teeth and willing out a grape to happen. This is something that the nutrients of the soil and the roots and the vine structure actually do for them. In the same way, when we're resting well, when we're remaining in Jesus, that fruit naturally comes out of that. And so this is why for our team, this is the very reason we're starting the way we are, really focused on discipleship and being better followers of Jesus, because we want our fruit of this new church to come out of this rest, out of this remaining, this abiding in Jesus first and foremost. What's interesting about this, though, is that we have these indications of growth and pruning. And so we see when we're coming out of this remaining season and moving forward, there's some growth that's happening. And so we get in these seasons of growth where it's going through and we're growing. And after we get to this point, we just start seeing the fruit flow out of that, which is really cool. On the flip side, we can be in the season of fruit and inevitably it just seems to stall out. And that's not a bad thing. I think sometimes we try to hold on to that, what maybe we call it success, as long as we can. And this just shows again, and this is, Jesus uses a lot of agricultural metaphors. And I think this speaks a lot because he created that life too, speaks a lot about our own humanity. But eventually that fruit stops bearing and we have this season of pruning that happens. What's interesting about pruning is, I mean, you guys know what it is. Pruning is literally cutting back the branches. Pruning hurts. It doesn't feel good, but it's necessary. In fact, they talk about this in the book, and I've heard this from other people too. When you think about, it's not just grape plants. A lot of plants are like this, but when you trim, when you get certain plants, like a vine-based plants, they actually don't have the ability to hold their own weight in the first year or two. So if you were just to let a grape plant go crazy in its first year and grow a bunch of fruit, it would actually break under its own weight. And so the farmer would trim back these vines for the first few years before they ever allowed it to bear fruit, in order that vine became really strong and could sustain the weight of the fruit in future seasons. So it actually could produce more fruit in the long term. And I love that metaphor for this, because so often we get in these seasons where we think, oh man, this stinks, this hurts, I don't like this. And we want to quickly blame the devil. And I'm not saying he's always excused, but sometimes I think we blame him maybe a little too quickly and forget that God is king of this world and God is in control. And that might actually be a season of pruning for each one of us to get stronger, to build the strength we need to be able to bear the fruit later. And I think it's no mistake that when we're in those pruning seasons, why I like this illusion here, it's these pruning seasons that often lead us to this season of remaining, the season of abiding. When we're in the fruit and everything's going really good, is probably the times I would say, for me personally, my spiritual disciplines are at their worst, because I'm thinking, oh, I'm pretty good at this stuff, even though it's not me. And I just kind of hang out there. The cool thing about this pruning, as painful as it is it moves us in that direction of realizing how much we need Jesus and moving us to a season of remaining. And so what you get out of these ideas, is that both you have this rest work rhythm that should happen really on a weekly pattern of the Sabbath principle that we see throughout Scripture. Even in the New Testament, Jesus talks about it. And you get the sense through even this illustration here that Jesus speaks to kind of these seasons of growth, these seasons of pruning, these seasons of resting in him, and then these seasons of fruit. And I think this is really important for all of us to realize, because I want you guys to understand that no matter where you're at, because I do believe you guys are in all different probably places and have different perspectives on what's going on right now, but I have no doubt in my mind that each one of you fought someplace on the semicircle. And by knowing where you're at in this, it helps you understand where you're going towards. If you really are feeling the struggle right now, the pain, the pruning, it's a pretty good indication that, one, it's not always bad. It doesn't feel good. It's a cutting. But God is moving you to a season to just really remain in him and moving you closer to him. If you see yourself in this season of just resting and remain because everything got really calm, hopefully it moves you into that plane of growth where you can take on new rhythms, new spiritual rhythms, new practices, habits that move you towards this season of fruit that I hope all of us corporately as a church plant live out here, not just in the near future, but especially in the next 6 to 9 months, where we can say with confidence, looking back at this weird, crazy season, saying we have no doubt that God allowed this to happen so we could really gear up, grow up together to experience this fruit as a community of what God's going to do through this church. And so, yeah, again, we have this kind of corporate way to view this, but also a very individualized way to think about this. And so I wanted to share that with you, hopefully just as a point of encouragement to see where you're at and maybe what you need. And as I said, what kind of practices maybe you're adding in while you have presumably the time, or if you don't have the time, like Lance, you shared how busy things are right now. What would it look like to actually be a bit more disciplined and go back like Jesus in the wee hours in the morning and just spend a little bit of time praying and resting, remaining in Jesus, whatever that would be. And so, yeah, that was kind of my heart to share with you guys today. And obviously the book goes into more detail as it always does. It's chapter 9. So you guys can go ahead and read that this week as well. But I want to share that, and now I just want to open it up. So typically we would do this in table discussion groups, and but I want to open it up just for anybody who wants to share kind of what resonated with you out of this. Where do you think you're at? We talked about these Kairos moments. What is God trying to break through in you? Is there a new epiphany? Any kind of that learning circle process that are you reflecting? So it's very open-ended, but I want to give you guys the opportunity to just reflect, share, observe, whatever it is based on this learning circle.
Well, I know for me, this isn't the first time I've looked at this shape, so it kind of but it's good to look at it again. It's kind of refreshing some things. Because I know first getting here and before we were getting here, it's just been a season of, I've been calling it like a wilderness season, a season of pruning, and it's good to see it as that again. Because it's just been really hard for me personally to really connect with God lately. Normally I spend time in the morning and I really feel like I connect and go about my day, but these last 6-7 months have been, best way I describe it is brutal. So it's really refreshing to realize that, yeah, there was definitely some attacks from Satan in there, but I think the season as a whole is a pruning season from God. So now just trying to figure out like, what is it he's working at pruning, and kind of going through the learning circle on this whole season of pruning and trying to figure out what is it that he's really trying to cut away in me and in my heart to get ready for this season of fruitfulness. So it's been it's brutal. I mean, it's cutting. I mean, it hurts, but I'm excited because I feel like, at least I hope I'm coming to the end of it, because it's been several long months. But yeah.
Thanks, Josh.
Hey, Josh, you said a word there that triggered something I was thinking about. In the later parts of the chapter, they talk about a little bit about the rhythm and the pace of, you know, seasons, months, weeks, and days. And I think we can get caught up in that and say, you know, it's okay. Well, today was busy, so it's okay. I didn't rest, right? This was a busy week. This was a busy month, or like this is a busy season of life, you know, until the kids are older. But being intentional about making, or at least being aware and trying to be intentional about the rhythm of finding rest, find time for pruning it in daily, weekly, and monthly rhythms, not just seasonal rhythms. But I also say on the back end of that, because I am sympathetic to some of the folks that we've talked about, Colin and Lance, like that have higher working hours, of not holding, like God doesn't want us to feel guilty if we fall out of that rhythm. We just need to be aware of that, right? And try to move forward and grow into it. But that was something that was important to me. I've probably been more guilty of like binge and purge, right? Like that working for the weekend kind of struck home for me, Mitch, of saying like working from rest instead of working towards rest, and being more intentional about finding that daily rhythm of rest and pruning and abiding in God on shorter spurts rather than like, you know, saving up for a retreat or something, right? It's like I'll do like 2 retreats a year and that'll be enough for me to abide in God. But being a little bit more intentional about the shorter cycles of daily and weekly abiding.
Yeah, that's something that we, knowing that sometimes reality is reality and you're just going to have crazy busy seasons. And if you can anticipate them, making sure that you're actually preparing for them. So Kenzie and I, we kind of got out of practice. Maybe this is a good opportunity to do this. We would, you know, spend a day away together or overnight or something and look 6 months out and say, okay, let's think big. When are the busy seasons going to be? And let's make sure we're planting rest in there before one of those busy seasons. Or, hey, we know we need to be just home and chill as a family 1 weekend out of the month. Let's just put that in the calendar, and we'd start with all those rest points first. And then after that, we would just add in things as we think they were prioritized. And obviously work is a big priority. You know, those are kind of non-negotiables for us. And so to make sure we take those seriously, but not overcommit ourselves where we, in a way, have an excuse for not doing those patterns of abiding or remaining in Jesus.
Hey, so I think I love the shape. I think it really resonates with me at what I've been feeling and like the conflict over this last week, because it's easy for everyone just to sleep in as long as possible and then, you know, hit the work day or, you know, what the kids need like at the last minute. And I think just like preparing from a point of rest at the beginning of the day, which, you know, I know for me, like, I just want to spend some time in the Word, spend some time exercising, and, you know, getting disciplined about it to actually get out of bed a little earlier so that I'm not starting the day in pure chaos. I think that's something that I've just been hungry for the last week, and it's like compiled on the chaos I feel and like the stress of the new reality that we're in. And so I love the idea of like entering work from a point of rest, and yeah, definitely resonates with me. And I'm looking to plan and do something about it.
I thought I heard that, Cherie.
I actually got up this morning before anyone else, and I read my Bible and I exercised for like 20 minutes, which never happens. So, and that's before I even like saw the circle. So day one.
I agree with what you said as well. Right now, life changed so quickly because we're now at this point where I have a lot of time and free time, which I didn't have before. And before, I was feeling really overwhelmed with all of the responsibilities that I had. And the questions that you had sent out, I really connected with am I noticing God's strength and power more and more in my life? And am I obedient to God's prompting? And I was recognizing that I wasn't at all noticing the strength and power, and I wasn't being obedient to when he was prompting me to rest or to do certain things, or even when it was like, oh, you should go and talk to this person, they need you. I would always kind of be like, oh, but I have to do this instead. And so just recognizing that, and those two things are something just in my daily life, even when I get back to the grind of work, making sure that I start the day out right. And that was my goal with my huddle this week, was to make sure that I work out and I spend time with God before anything else. That way I can start off in a good place instead of a place of chaos.
That's awesome. Thanks, Mallory. And I appreciate too, not only that you guys are still meeting your huddles, that's awesome. Keep doing that. But to hear really the heart and the hope and the vision for these huddles is they're action oriented. Obviously there's a place to hear each other out and care for each other well. But there's also an opportunity, a big opportunity for personal growth, spiritual growth, because we're holding each other accountable to what God's telling us to do. So good on you, Mallory, for doing that and for your group. And I'm excited to hear those stories.
So for me, I definitely feel like I'm also in a time of pruning. Because for what I do for work is I have an Etsy shop, and I wood burn on leather, and I make different products and stuff. But anyway, that's very determined by how much work I put into it. Like, oh yay! I'm so glad you got them. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, it's just like I can put in late. I can work, right up until I go to bed, or I can not do much at all. So it's kind of like, and my personality tends to overwork myself, especially because finances just haven't been easy for us the last couple years. And especially now with all this lifestyle change for us, where our income's shifting and we're kind of like just banking on the fact that our businesses are going to work and going to make enough money and that God's going to provide. So I think for me, it was easy to get to a place of I'm just working, trying to fill orders, trying to market myself, trying to like make new products. And just like, I was like pushing myself so hard to like really produce. And I found that I was kind of burning out, or just feeling like, I don't know if I can keep up this pace kind of thing. And so it was fun because, well, this whole week has been weird for me just because, I don't know, I just have found myself with a lot more downtime because I'm also trying to learn how to rest. So I've been kind of like scheduling that in, but I find that it's hard for me to know what to do, because like it's like I'll spend time with God, I'll journal, I'll, you know, maybe just go out for a walk or something, but then it's like I still have more time, and it's like, what do I do? And so it was interesting because Josh was like, well, what are your hobbies yesterday? And I was like, oh yeah, I do have hobbies. Like I could do fun things. And so it made me realize like my Etsy shop had become so much of my job that I forgot that like the reason I started it was totally God inspired, and it was a way that I could create with God. And that's just an area that I've always loved to do, and I always connect with him there. And so anyway, I decided last night to just start burning on leather. No agenda, no design, like nothing in my mind other than just whatever God put there, and just to do it like without feeling like I needed to perform or anything. And it was really refreshing just to like renew that sense of like just creating with God, and doing it one-on-one with him, and yeah, just refreshing my soul, I guess. So that was really cool. But I definitely, I feel like I'm in a pruning season and learning to abide. So
Yeah, there's a good piece in there at the end of that chapter too, talking about figuring out your style of rest that you guys should read. I actually created a little packet for this, so it just reminded me of that, Sarah. So thank you. But it kind of walks through that process of determining what is your style of rest and that sort of thing, because that is important. If we, not that, you know, reading the Bible and praying and meditating, all that's always good. But I think probably some of us need different measures of each of those to really connect with Jesus. And so it's good to go through that process.
So just listening to you guys talk, I have been thinking about that a couple of things, but like for the kids, I was very intentional in putting like a daily routine in place that we were working through, where like they have all these times built in, and I do that in the summer, but part of their day is that we've been reading our Bible and doing a devotional with them. But I was sitting here thinking like, but I didn't put that into my daily routine for what I'm doing. I made sure they had that for part of their day, but didn't do that for myself. And then the other piece of being home, like sometimes I'm guilty of putting all of my energy and love into these other 3 people that I live with. And my husband is wonderful. And I am guilty sometimes of forgetting that he isn't, and he shouldn't have to be, the main source of where I'm getting that love and affirmation from. So being with him all the time, I'm loving it. He's my very best friend and I love my kids, but that isn't fair to him to put that on him. And I need that for my own growth as well, to make sure that I'm taking time. And I sometimes get busy with like housework and the kids' schoolwork and all those things. And it keeps going to like the bottom of the list, where then like finally climb into bed, I'm tired and exhausted. So that's just one thing I've been thinking about as you guys have been sharing. So thank you for saying those things.
I think too, though, this past week has been a big reminder to me that, you know, I hear a lot about people, they like their structure and they like their plans and they like to know where things are going. Well, this week has kind of illustrated that maybe we've got a new pendulum swing that we're going to figure out. Some of the things that were really important to us last week aren't such a big deal anymore. And now we're trying to figure out the new reality. And that could be exactly what God's trying to say to us right here and right now. And while we're going to have to figure out those new rhythms, I think it's more than anything, we've just got to be in tune to when God gives us the bandwidth to be able to be active for him. And it may be right around the corner. But when we're so wrapped up in our own routines and what we want out of life, we can miss that. And I think this week for me personally was just a kind of a wake-up call there. I've struggled this week. I've kind of wallowed in it. because it has been such a change. But that doesn't mean that that's not God pruning away. So I say we just gotta, every day you gotta try to figure it out. Every day.
It's been really interesting. Can you turn yours down so? Okay, thanks. But it's been really interesting this past week, just talking with my team. And as we move into action and minute by minute, things are changing or canceling, or we're sending out memos. Being the voice that keeps saying, okay, let's pump the brakes. Let's think this through. Let's think about long term, and let's slow down. And everything in you. Can you just go another room? I'm sorry. I'm hearing myself double and I can't concentrate. No, just go. Go. Okay. Sorry, but just being the one in the room that understands how quickly we need to react in order for our teachers and our students and our parents to know what's going on and feel that we are doing the best job for them. But at the same time, realizing there's so much more that we need to be concentrating on and that we need to really value. And that's kind of what you were getting at, Ben, like priorities change and you start to see what's really important. And it's brought up a lot of great conversations, but it's also been extremely hard for people that are reacting in a way that they feel is beneficial to all, but really it's just making everybody busier and consuming and just, the knee-jerk reaction. But for me, it's just been constantly telling myself, like, okay, just slow down. Like, what is most important? What really has to get done versus, Amy, you said it, what if about this and this and this and this, and trying to plan for 50 different paths that it could go. But yeah, I heard it echoed throughout everything you guys have said, but it's just been a really interesting but good week.
So just going off that, Mackenzie and Rick know my curriculum director, and this is a very difficult time for her, especially because she's very much organized, very has everything set out and that control is hard for her to let go of, and I love her dearly. But this week I just felt like God saying, she just needs to hear from you today. And so I just said, I'm praying for you. I know how hard this must be. And that is not something I would normally have done. And just her response and saying how much that meant to her and how she totally needed that right then. So I've just been praying, how can I, in my role, be supportive of her in all that she's facing right now. So it's been interesting. And like you said, it's going to be day by day. But I think just being that peace and that it's okay that we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, the day after that, or even 5 minutes from now is okay.
I hear you, Amy. I don't know if she told you, but you can ask her. But she's been reading the, the Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, because we had breakfast and I just shared a few things from that because, that's just what I do. And she went out and read it. And she said she was actually going to share a chapter with the principals. So Rick, I don't know if she shared anything, but with the principals, but that was right before this all happened. So I'm glad you said something. We'll just keep reinforcing it.
Of course she went out and bought it and read it right away. No one's surprised by that.
Well, I love too just that what you're sharing there, Amy, is the sensitivity piece to this. When none of us know what tomorrow is actually going to bring, because things are changing pretty quickly around here. That it is such an opportunity for us as Jesus followers to be really connected to Jesus and know what we as individuals should be doing to represent him best at this time, because there is no manual for this. And I've had several people like, so is your church plant still going? How are you doing it? I said, I don't know. This is just day by day, and I just I'm praying a lot, and we're gonna figure it out as we go what Jesus wants us to do during these seasons, and I think that goes for each one of us. So good nod there, Amy, for us to be really, really listening to what's going on.
This is Amy Overacker. I'm not going to turn on the video because I'm still in my pajamas. But one of the things, nothing's really changed for me in all of this, because I'm still working. I'm still, I'm still going through the daily stuff. However, there are whisperings, a lot's changed at work, where about 10 people voluntarily took unemployment for a month. And so I don't know, what that's going to look like in the future, but me personally, I have this peace that only God gave to me. I don't have any worries about it. He provided everything I needed prior to it. And, I had put my tax refund money in the savings account and asked him what he wanted me to do with it. And what I heard him say is save it. And then yesterday when I went to go buy groceries, he was like, you have the money. This is why I wanted you to save it. So with that in mind, with everything else going on, and people freaking out about everything, I don't know. I'm not freaking out. It's in God's hands. I've already given my life to Christ, and I have to trust him to take care of it. And that's, I hope that's encouraging to all of you that believe in Jesus, that this is in his hands. He's got us covered, and we just have to rest in his arms right now.
That's really cool, Amy. Thanks for sharing that.
That's one thing I've noticed too is, couple of, this is, I guess, sort of a crisis situation for especially a lot of reasons. But for me, when Ben was going through all of his health issues a few years ago, and, this kind of situation where you don't know if you're going to have a job, to me, it's almost a little freeing, or I find myself worrying less because I really can't control it. It's really my work stuff and things that I'm supposed to do, I feel like I'm responsible for. And if I don't do it, it's on me. And, I worry about those things maybe, but in these kind of situations where you really have no control, to me, it has felt a little bit freeing, because I just literally have to let go and let God. And I guess, that's kind of how I've been approaching it. So I'm kind of the same way. I don't really have any great anxiety, because maybe it's just because I've gotten old, because I didn't used to be like that. But it's been okay, I guess.
I think that for me and for our family, Ben and we kind of operate on different mindsets about right now. But I know that for myself, I feel like this is kind of a time of pruning, and almost as a family, we're learning how to take advantage. I've been talking to Ben a lot about taking advantage of the time that we are all here together under one roof for every single day. And as exhausting as that is, especially when you're not used to having all of them home at the same time, and then we have 2 puppies, and so there's that too. But so it's just been, I feel like, a time where God's really telling us as a family to figure out how to continue to strengthen our foundation as a family, to be able to have the strength and the tools that we need to then pour ourselves into the church plant as we continue to grow, and whenever this all kind of blows over, as far as the social distancing. But I feel like the pruning is coming from okay, the stress of being at home with all the noise and all the chaos at home, and finding that time to rest. That's a really big balance for me right now, where I'm really going to have to start being a lot more intentional about carving out that morning to spend time in God's word, so that I have the peace to go throughout the day, because the peace aspect really isn't there right now, just because of it's not busy, it's just life with little kids, and finding ways to show them the gospel amidst all of that is challenging, and it tests your patience, it tests everything. And so that's where the pruning piece comes in, where God's really working on us and how to pour in and continue to strengthen that foundation. So, do you want to add anything?
No, you said it well.
Okay.
Ben, you're always so talkative.
Yeah, sorry. Do you want me to talk, Mitch?
I always want you to talk, but that's up to you, Ben.
I'll do it just for you. No, I've heard others say it too, but things that are outside of my control, I have more peace with, just because I just can't do anything about it. And it's interesting because I'm working from home, but this is my busy season as well. So I'm probably working more than I would even if I was in the office, just because it's easier to not have to drive anywhere. And my office is just right upstairs. So I think once that slows down at the end of March, it'll be a little bit different. Life will look a little bit different there if we're still doing social distancing and figuring that out. But right now, it's hard for me to honestly think about everything going on, just because there's so much work to do. So yeah, so trying to figure out how to help Allie, and then I don't know, let's go from there.
Thanks, Ben. I love hearing you talk. All right, guys. Well, it's been really fun talking to you. Got a few things I wanted to mention, but thank you. Seriously, thanks for sharing, and thanks for reflecting. I want to encourage you guys, read over that chapter 9, and then actually really work through that learning circle process about what does this mean, where I'm at. Some of you guys verbalized it. I'm in a series of pruning. I'm in a series of resting, whatever that is for you, and walk through that, what it could mean. But one thing I do like for people to do, and you can do this as a huddle or you can do this on your own, is to actually go through and say, ask yourself kind of what would it look like to really get serious about building the structure around that rhythm, around that rest work rhythm. As much as you can without knowing how things are going to change from day to day, to say, hey, if nothing changed for the next week, which it probably isn't, if nothing changed for the next week, what would a good rhythm for me and for my family, if you have a family, look like? Another good thing to do, I'd encourage you, is actually do that to span out a month, to span out a season, and say, hey, I know no matter what happens, obviously lots could change, but I know this is typically a busy season for me. What would it be to plan some kind of resting getaway? Maybe that's a vacation, kind of a place for spiritual retreat. Jesus went out to the desert for 40 days before he started his ministry. And what's interesting about that, I think it was in that Ruthless Hurry book. I can't remember. It's one of the books I read lately, but he brought to light that idea that was, we always think of that as a place of weakness, him out in the desert, him, getting tempted by Satan, but it was actually a place of strength. You always see Jesus going out into these kind of retreat settings before something significant happens, because that place with the Father was a place of strength. That's why the enemy came and started attacking during that season, because he was getting kind of geared up and strengthened up. So for you guys to look out and say, hey, I know this is going to be a busy season in blank, October, whatever, just throw out a random month for you guys right now. So what would it be like to take a good spiritual retreat, a rest, a vacation in September? what would it mean to, if I know every month this thing happens, the whole day before, not do anything, but just kind of rest and re-energize, and then to do that in your weeks, but to actually work through a calendar process, and first starting with the immovable, so to speak, like maybe it's your work or something like that, and then start seeding in the prioritize things first. And rest, I would say, needs to be prioritized first when you talk about working from rest, not working to rest. But that would be a cool activity for each one of you to jump into, because it is my very heart and belief that this is a true season of abiding for us as individuals, to gear us up for growth that hopefully we'll all experience for that season of fruit as a church, as a community in the upcoming months. So that's my hope. But I wanted to kind of jump ahead and, thinking about moving, like what does moving forward even look like right now? And to be really frank, nothing's changed. We're still on the same mission we've been on since the beginning. It just looks a little bit different now, and how we're connecting with people, how we're caring for people, and that sort of thing. So some of you guys have already been talking about, I love some of the sensitivity you've had to care for people in your circles right now. Some of you guys are talking about picking up the phone, calling people. I love that. I know one of the things that I'm going to try doing is have one significant phone call every day. And I think even more text is great, but especially in a disconnected kind of season that we're in right now, my personal goal is I'm going to have one significant phone call with somebody every day. It's real simple, nothing super spiritual about it, but that was just something I thought I could do, and encourage you guys to figure out those ways. I know one of the things that has been getting real popular quick and normalized, which I think is cool, is people just having like social distance parties. They'll do something like this, a conference call, and sit on their couch looking at a screen with their friend, drinking wine and catching up, or whatever that is. Or Kaylee and her cousin used that Netflix party app and watched a movie, actually a TV series together this week, where they can chat and talk to each other while they watch it simultaneously. But just to find those cool, creative ways to be influential, to be connected with those people, not only in this community, but those people that you've been trying to develop relationships with all along. So yeah, the mission obviously moves forward, even though we're not sure what it all is going to mean for us. But with that said, I mean, we're still moving forward. I'm figuring out locations and names, and we're getting closer and closer by the day. And I'm kind of working in the background with a few of you on some of those things. And so be excited about that. We're planning on moving forward for that October launch, like we've been planning all along. And hopefully this thing will safely pass quickly for us and for this church. But some of the things that I do want to mention is that next week, I think you guys would have got that, but we were supposed to be at the Living Well. We were going to put on the whole worship service, the band, the whole deal, and all their services are canceled. And I told Philip, I said, I'd be willing to preach, but it might be weird during this season. This is probably a better one for you. And he agreed. And so I'm not even preaching at that. So we're going to do this again next week. I think it went pretty smooth. I like the interaction that we've been having. And in a lot of ways, it actually allows us to get to know each other better, because there's this built-in buffer that we get to listen to each person talk, in the social pressure of we're all staring at you because you haven't talked yet. So I think we'll keep doing this, and we'll plan on doing this next week as well. Same thing, 10 o'clock.
Hey, speaking of social pressure, I think that there's two people that we haven't seen that might be sitting with Kaylee and Jake. No?
They suddenly realized they were here to do laundry and disappeared.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe next week we can say hi to them.
There's Hallie and Michael.
Hi, Hallie and Michael.
Hi, guys.
And our table full of breakfast and mimosas.
I like how you guys are 6 feet apart at the table.
We're socially quarantining together.
That's okay, because you need them through this time. So.
Here, we're on Thursday over here.
Yeah, for those of you who haven't met Hallie and Michael, they want to be a part of this team. They've been busy on Sundays, but it's good to see you guys. So anyways, thanks for that, Kenzie. Next week, we're not going to be living well. We'll be doing this April 6th. We were supposed to do that breakfast huddle challenge, right? Where we're going to go out in a restaurant and we're going to see on the beginning of Holy Week how many people were out and about doing breakfast and not at church. Well, that probably isn't going to happen. I think technically all the restaurant bans are lifting. Is it the end of this month, Jake? Do you know?
No, we just got an email this morning that it's now extended through April 13th. So
they're really going after Easter.
We'll be surprised if it's done before May. Honestly, we don't expect to open back up again until after May or until May.
Okay.
At the earliest. But the official date now has moved from March 30th to April 13th for now.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that for you guys. That stinks.
Yeah. I'm getting a lot of steps in doing curbside delivery though, so it's all right.
Well, so that answers that. There won't be breakfast joints open. I think for you guys, it would be really great to connect on that as a huddle. But I don't know if it's going to be possible because I don't know if they're going to be recommending people to be going into other people's homes at that point. We can kind of soft play this worst case scenario, and it's not a bad thing. We would just do this again and connect and catch up with each other because hopefully you guys will be continuing to meet with your huddles via Skype or Zoom or whatever throughout the week. So you guys are connecting anyways. But yeah, that's probably the most likely scenario then at this point. We'll just do another Zoom that weekend. And then Easter, we're not going to do, we don't have a service, so we won't be doing that. So I definitely encourage you. The hope of that was to actually be able to kind of learn from, investigate other churches. Well, we're not going to be able to do that either because I think most churches at that point, I don't know if any churches is willing to say it officially yet, but it looks like a lot of that is still going to be in play through Easter, especially if they're doing the restaurant ban that long. So I'd just encourage you guys to plan on watching a service wherever you want to watch it online, if that's what you want to do, or do your own little Easter service as a family. And then I will probably plan on not jeopardizing your time on Easter morning. And I might just figure out some fun way to connect because it's Holy Week as a team during that week. And so I'll be thinking and praying about that as well right now. But that's kind of the lookout. Like I said, this is going to be going on for at least the foreseeable future. So unless I say otherwise, we'll just plan on meeting like this every Sunday. It seems to be working pretty well. And the beauty of this is I can actually record this. And so what we can do is I will do a basically full unedited version and put it on like our YouTube channel privately. So those on the team can hear everything, even some of the more vulnerable stuff. And then for something public, it'd be cool to get some of this out and I can get Carter to edit up, chop it up as we need to just put it on there so people are tracking with us that way. But that way, if you aren't able to meet, which I know some of you work on Sundays, you'll still be able to catch a large part of it at least via recording that way. So that's my plan for that. And actually I should say, any questions about going forward specifically that you guys have been wondering about? All right, I think that's a good sign. All right, so this week, Michelle had a birthday. So where's she at? I'm trying to find you on the screen. Where'd you go? You wait. Oh, there she is under the blanket. Happy birthday, Michelle. And I was giving her a hard time.
Thank you.
I was giving her a hard time via text that she needs to get a redo on her birthday, as well as I think, I don't know if was Audrey affected by the quarantine? Chad? Where'd you go? The break.
Yeah, so that was her birthday was on the 12th, so they had a party she had a party on the 13th, which was the last day of school. So we talked to the parents and we're like, so they hung out at school all day together. You think it's cool if they hang out tonight? So luckily, yeah, she still was able to have a couple of friends come over for that. But now we got Colton's birthday coming up in a week and a half. So yeah, it's been interesting. You've seen things on social media and stuff of people doing like Zoom birthday parties and other things like that. So it's going to be.
I don't think the 4-year-old's going to get it.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be very big on getting like a bunch of 4-year-olds together right now. It'd probably be a terrible idea. So.
But he just got a giant punching dinosaur, so I think he'll be okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that Audrey at least got to experience that. Colton might have to get a redo then, huh? Like Michelle. But yeah, happy birthday to you guys, and so glad you guys are all on this team. Going forward, I know some of you were, a lot of you give online or whatever. If you give in person, you can mail that to the bridge. Just put your address, put church plant on it and mail it to the bridge's address, or you can drop it off at the building, whatever, if that's one of the ways you do that. So I just want to put that out there, or if you've never tried it and want to do the online now's the time, I suppose. But yeah, the big hope in that is, even though we're not meeting, we're still trying to build here, and we're building a church. And I was talking to a couple that we're friends with this week, and they've asked to be able to be a part of our support team and want to give to our church plant. And they're kind of like, what do you need money for? And my response isn't super specific yet, other than, well, everything costs money. So, we're hoping to raise money for this new building, for whatever place we end up renting probably in the meantime, unless something comes up. We need to make sure we have money to pay for a lot of technology that's probably going to come up, because, the Living Well being number 2, the Living Well got all the cool technology hand-me-downs that we didn't get. So, so as you're thinking about that, and even if you know people in your life that might be encouraged to give, I was hassling my parents too, so they can start giving. And so if you have people in your life that would be excited about giving to a kingdom venture like this, it's a good time to ask them. And if you want specifics on maybe how to do that, you can get with me and I can help you do that as well. So that's why we're still giving, and hopefully you are too, as you're able. And so that's about it. Any other things before we part ways here? It's 11:58. Trying to hold to the wire here before we part our ways.
Going back to birthdays, Katie St. John had her baby this week.
Yes, thank you for that reminder. Yesterday, right?
Yeah, yesterday.
Yes. Yeah, I heard it was pretty crazy how they do the hospital thing. Like, they're only allowed like one visitor, and once they leave, they can't come back, kind of crazy stuff. And so we obviously be praying for both of them for their health, because a hospital would be kind of scary to be in right now, actually.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any other thoughts? Any other last comments?
Ben's not going to be happy with me for saying this, but he found another potential church name. We were looking it up.
Why are we talking about it? We'll send it over.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good.
Just make sure that worldwide can go on the end of it.
Worldwide.
Absolutely.
Worldwide.
All right, guys. Well, Chad, would you mind praying to close us down this morning, and then we'll bid our separate ways here.
Yeah, I assume you mean me and not last name Chad, so I'll just go ahead and go with that one. Holy Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to get together, in a time where we are called by unprecedented events in our history to be a part. Thank you for the technology we have to get together. I ask that you watch over this community that is coming together to form a new church, a new body, a new arms and feet to be building your kingdom here in the Portage area. And I just pray for all the members of our group that can't be with us today, and extend this out to the people that we come in contact with, that friends and family and neighbors stay healthy, that we follow government's recommendations for social distancing and self-quarantine, and that we are able to contribute to flattening the curve and keeping everyone healthy. We want a special prayer for all our healthcare workers and pharmacists that are out there, literally on the front lines of this battle, that you're keeping them and their families safe. Pray for all of the small business owners, that the government is going to do the right thing by them and they'll be able to make ends meet through this process. Be with all of us who have kids at home and are going through the challenges, the disruption, whatever's the best way to phrase that as we adjust to this. Be with us, Father. Give us grace and peace during this time. And as has been shared by multiple people, give us that peace that surpasses understanding, that we would be a stalwart that people could look to in this troubled times, and we could possibly point even more people towards you. We pray these things in your Son's holy and everlasting name. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Chad. You guys have a great Sunday, and I want to encourage you guys to be connecting with each other through the week. Mackenzie and I may or may not start, well, we probably will, because now I said it, some text threads just to try to stay connected that way. I know not all of you are on Facebook, so maybe do that and be able to stay connected. But encourage you guys to do that. Stay connected, love each other well, love people well, and love you guys. So have a great day. See ya.
Just being silent.